This morning, the man who's dedicated his life to saving a language and culture that was almost lost, and the complex he's built that contains a vast treasure of storytelling. Aaron Lansky runs the Yiddish Book Center in Western Massachusetts. Over the past 40-plus years, it's gone from an idea that many dismissed to an institution of higher learning in and of itself, a place dedicated to preserving the past while making sure some parts of it are never repeated. Oh my gosh.
So what do you think?
That's a lot.
So that's it. It's a whole culture sitting here.
Inside a fireproof, climate-controlled basement in Western Massachusetts rest more than 1,000 years worth of stories. If not for Aaron Lansky, much of it might have been lost forever.
The places where many of these books came from, were sort of erased from the map. The stories they tell are about a civilization that was almost wiped out.
To understand what Lansky has done here on the campus of Hampshire College, you have to go back to the first big waves of Ashkenazi Jewish immigrants arriving in America from Europe and Russia at the turn of the 20th century, speaking a language they'd used since at least the 11th century.
Initially, they embraced their own culture. They were still speaking Yiddish. There were, 6 or 7 daily Yiddish newspapers in New York City alone. There was Yiddish theater was thriving in New York. But by the next generation, that was no longer the case. The price of admission in America was that you couldn't be too different.
The United Nations swear to punish Germany for its brutality against the Jews.
Assimilation, though, was of course not the main reason Yiddish seemingly vanished.
Nazis have even burned culture.
Before World War II, there were more than 11 million Yiddish speakers around the world.
Right.
There are now how many?
We don't know the exact number now, maybe 1 million. But what we do know is that of those 11 million Yiddish speakers, fully half of them were murdered during the Holocaust. So it wasn't exactly a natural death. People sometimes forget that.
When Lansky first began visiting the homes of many aging Jews around the country to collect material as a graduate student, he was given an estimate. There were probably about 70,000 Yiddish books that could be tracked down.
So I figured, all right, 70,000 books, I could save that in a year or two, and get back to my studies. The only trouble was they were so wildly off. So we've now saved about 1.5 million volumes.
Wow.
And we're still going strong. In fact, we saved more books during the pandemic than we had in 10 years previous.
I just got goosebumps.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
When you talk about how many books have been saved.
Yes, yes.
Today, beyond the fireproof facility in the basement of the center, there's the main floor, a sprawling space that can be stacked up against the best libraries in the world. The Yiddish Book Center still goes out and collects books, but many are also sent. Boxes and boxes every day.
This is nice, actually.
That's very nice. That is really unusual.
That is nice.
Right,
as David Mazauer and Rochelle Grossman showed us.
A lot of children's material here. This is cute. This is my Aleph base, my alphabet.
Oh.
And so you can see it was to teach the different letters. So this is Fey for Ferd, which is a horse.
It's like you're opening someone's house, their life, all of it.
Absolutely, and the variety of books is so interesting. So this is a book about the Talmud. So somebody who had English, Yiddish learning materials, who had stories, who had children's books, also maybe had a strong interest in religion. And
now this one is really amazing. So I think you actually will recognize this book.
Oh, wow.
So this is a more recent book.
Yeah.
This is a translation of
Curious George.
Curious George, right?
Yeah, of course we know Curious George.
George der Neugierige, George the Curious One.
Yeah.
So it's done actually in transliteration with English letters and then also in Yiddish.
And people are using these. People who are raising their children in Yiddish, people who've made a conscious choice to keep the language alive in their family are using these books and want more of these books to read with their kids.
Dear Ma, for sure, this is the earliest memory for me of a book that you read to me. Mine not learning Yiddish is perhaps your biggest disappointment.
Wow.
You're 85 years young, so here's your chance.
Brilliant. Isn't that great?
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful?
These books happen to be what was called a deluxe edition of the collected works of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem was one of the most popular Yiddish writers of all time.
Shalom Aleicham's works, along with more than 11,000 other titles, are all available online to download for free to anyone.
It continues to amaze us and inspire us that these books continue to come to us from all over the world.
Susan Bronson is the center's executive director. It does seem like Aaron's done a whole lot more than just collect a whole bunch of books.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we had just collected the books and put them in a dusty vault and closed the door and say, great, we saved the books, you know, that would have been nice, and it would have been important just to have rescued these artifacts. But everything we've done in 42 years has basically been to try to open those books up, metaphorically speaking and literally, to a new generation.
What makes a language beautiful? Yiddish to me is a beautiful language.
That includes Yiddish Center fellow and TikToker Cameron Bernstein.
Every trend on the internet can connect to Yiddish, and I, having so much amazing access to these books, can just pull from the vast collection of Yiddish knowledge and say, well, it's exactly like this meme. Let me just like reformat it and share what I love so much in an internet language that other people can understand.
Aaron Lansky says he hopes a generation from now, the idea of this place is no longer a big deal, that a long maligned, once nearly destroyed language will never be again. When people say to you, why are you doing this? What do you say?
I say culture matters. You know, it matters in every way. It matters all over the world that as human beings, we tell stories and we produce artifacts and we produce literature, and that really defines us to a remarkable degree.
All those things matter, and if you don't have them,
you don't know who you are.
From an idea to what he's made, all these. Now, the challenges remain. Only 3% of the Yiddish books so far have been translated to English. They're still working on all that.
Because so many people don't know it. You know, my grandmother was the last in our family that spoke Yiddish, and my mom only picked up words. I know a few, but it's not a language that in our family we have anymore. I mean, it's proof of exactly how it dies out.
Yeah, Cameron, though, the TikToker, I love her.
Kids like Cameron trying to pick it up again, though, and learn it all.
And that's the secret.